Welcome back to another episode. Today is the Black Crowes, the Southern Harmony and Musical Companion
It's a
from way
mouthful.
back in 1992. Getting your Wayback Machine for this one,
This one
kids.
makes me feel old. This one makes me feel old.
uh, After Widespread, we got another Atlanta boys coming up from Atlanta. Even though I don't know if they like to admit that too much, they kind of do when it's convenient. I think
Yeah.
when they have their Fox theater shows and they do that. Alan's playing with his chair. At least that's all he's playing with is his chair. Thank God, because we had to stop him from doing that other stuff. He almost got arrested.
I brought Cupid dolls. Those Cupid dolls.
But
You need a
Alan,
different chair? No, I'm good. I'm sorry. It's just I was way higher than you guys. It made me look like I was a king or something. So,
Alan brought this album to us, so we're gonna let him kind of kick it off a little bit, and we'll go from there.
okay, so I gotta say, right out the gate, coming out of the '80s, right? Everything was hairband and sugar. Even if it was not that there was bad hair bands, there were some good hair bands, but everything had gone over the top. You know, everything was theatrical, right? And then we start moving into the '90s and grunge hits about '92, right? I think
Yep,
Nirvana.
91,
So
92.
there was 2 years there where we were still in the '90s, but we were having all that hairband stuff. They come out with their first album, Take Your Moneymaker, and it blew up my world. Okay. We've talked a lot about how bands that we've been listening to and albums we've been listening to are taking us back in time. So we also talked about how there'll be a certain band that's important to us, and for 20 years it's not. And then, oh, you rediscover it. I have never had to rediscover this band. It is my favorite band of all time. And this album is probably my favorite album of theirs. And it's hard to choose because they're all great albums. So when this one came out, it was their sophomore. It was the follow up, and it was just as huge as the first one. Okay, so for me, this has a lot of depth, has a lot of memories attached to it, fun memories, not a negative memory at all in this. And I would just have to say that if y'all don't like this band, then it's probably going to be two uncool cats because I'm leaving.
Well, I'll start off if you don't mind on this one.
Go ahead.
This one always, this is special to me not only because it's so great.
Right?
I mean, I'm a
Yes.
huge fan.
Yes.
I've seen them a bunch of times.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
excited. I've never got that's the band I've never gotten to
I've
see.
seen they were on the Horde tour one year and saw
Uh-huh.
Blues Traveler and all
Uh-huh.
those guys. But it's special to me. Reminds me of my mom. I would come home from school. She'd be cranking this album, cleaning the house.
Wait.
This was these guys, Jackal and Aerosmith were her fans. But this, she loved this album. She wore the back when we had CDs. She
Yeah.
wore the CDs out. I
So,
remember seeing it in her collection, and it just blew. I was like, I cannot believe my mom is listening to Black
right.
Crowes.
So that tells you the appeal.
Exactly.
The
Yep. Because
appeal.
with her, she grew up with the Beatles and Stones and all that, and I'm sure. I mean, they remind me a little bit of that kind of genre,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that's probably reminded her of that.
Yeah.
Just kind of an extension of all that. And with that, to me, this album, especially now being holy cow, 30 some odd
Oh,
years ago,
yeah.
to me, this is a classic rock album
Yes.
up there with the Stones. Like this,
Exile
if
on
you want
Main
to hear
Street. Yes.
quintessential rock and roll music, to me, when I think of rock and roll, I think of Black Crowes, early Aerosmith, and a band that not many people know, but the Screaming Cheetah Wheelies.
Yeah.
They are, to me, well, when I think of rock and roll, that's what it means to me, and that's what it should sound like.
Right.
And it brings up every warm,
Because it is
fuzzy
rock and
feeling
roll.
I had.
It's rock and roll.
Exactly.
It
Straight ahead rock and
it's
roll.
not it's not hairband rock,
Yep.
it's not grunge, it's not metal, it's rock and roll.
Yep. And that's the
Yeah.
way I feel. I mean, it's just, and this album, there is not a bad song on it. I love
Yeah.
every song.
Yeah.
Um, I think everything about it is awesome.
Yeah.
And as we start talking about the songs, we can go into that too, and I'll share what I think about each song and kind of dovetail off what you guys say. So,
Right. All right. So Bob,
is it my turn?
it's your turn.
I just right now.
I would hate that Bob would say that.
Well, there's a lot about this album that I do like. Um, there are some things that I don't like,
Okay.
but I will say this: you said uh, your mom liked rock and roll. She liked the Stones, the
Yep.
Beatles, and I put down here there are several places where I hear Janis Joplin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, clearly she could have been doing the
Yep.
parts.
Yeah.
I don't think Chris Robinson gets the due for his voice.
No, oh
I
my
think his voice is
gosh.
great, and he doesn't really get the notoriety, I guess, for his voice, But I think his voice, especially in this band, because he has a solo thing too, but
Yeah.
especially with the Crows, I think it's perfect for what they do.
Well, I'm not going to dwell on the bad parts, but
Bad part.
what I what I
Them's his fighting words.
all right, what I didn't care for
Mm.
so much in this album were the lyrics, m- pretty much all the way through.
I
However,
I agree. I would say they're not the strongest lyrics, but they
however,
fit the song, and to me it's rock and roll. They're not the most poetic you'd
it
ever hear.
it is rock and roll, and his voice is incredible.
Yep.
Now, one thing they did with his voice, as from a technical standpoint, it's dry.
Yeah.
There is no reverb.
Interesting
It's
too.
not
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
affected like, with reverb and delay and all that kind of stuff. The band is EQ'd and affected with effects just like I would
Yeah.
want it to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the band is I felt like perfect.
It's a phenomenal. Those
Yep.
guys are so tight.
But I want to jump back to something.
Okay.
The other influences I heard. I noted that the Stones.
Yeah.
I
Stones.
hear them in
Huge,
there,
Yep.
huge Stones.
and I hear one song where it's Rod Stewart.
I
I
put the
can get
faces.
Did
Yes.
you?
I was like, dude, I hear the faces in
Well, there you
this.
go. We're
I hear
on the
them.
same line.
Yep.
Yes.
Now, as far as um, individual songs, we can go
It's a
through.
band that doesn't get their due
I'm
either.
telling you,
Faces,
dude. And
man.
look who was
Come
in
on.
the faces, dude.
Jeff Beck. I mean,
And Rod Stewart.
serious.
And then the guy from the Stones is playing bass.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Wyman.
yeah,
Or-
was it, no,
no, not
I
Wyman.
can't remember,
Yeah.
but dude, I mean, it was a power.
Yep.
It was a super band before that was even a
Yep.
thing.
Another one, Marshall Tucker Band,
Uh, I
Maybe a
don't
little
know,
bit.
man.
"Thorn in My Pride."
Oh, what
It's
a song!
it's like, I shouldn't say this because I love Marshall Tucker Band, but it's as if Marshall Tucker Band was doing it right because it's tighter than they were.
Right, right.
But it was in that same
Yep.
vein. It's really.
You hear this is a band where you hear all these influences, and what they've done is they've taken this melange of influences and become their own thing.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to where you
yeah,
don't go, oh, they're a rip off of the Stones,
true.
they're a
Yep.
rip off of Aerosmith. No, they created their own sound and vibe. So I have a Marshall Tucker story.
Hmm.
So some years back, I don't know, my son was he was little, and we were visiting my in-laws, and they kind of live out in the middle of nowhere, and about half a mile down the road was this massive field, right? And we're sitting there one night, just outdoors and just listening. All of a sudden, I hear a band start up, and it's loud, and I'm like, "That's Marshall Tucker." And of course, my father-in-law at the time, he's like, "Who's Marshall Tucker?" And I said,
Guy I went to school with.
"Shit's a band or somebody that's really good like them." So we go walking towards the sound, and they were set up in the middle of this field
Nice.
playing. And there was all, and it was just like, if you play it, they will come kind of thing. People were just wandering around. People bringing chairs. They said,
Yeah.
yeah, and they were just playing out in the field. But
You know,
anyway,
the great Geddy Lee said. He said, if you have one or two influences, you're derivative, but if you have 1,000 influences, you're original.
I
And I
like
think
that.
that's what they do. I think they have all that influence you can hear them, but they have so many influences that they made that sound their own. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they did a great job of doing
The
that.
way he uses his vocal,
Yeah.
All
it's,
those little
it's just,
inflections.
yes,
It,
it all comes together really. I never listened to him.
Yeah.
course, that was in a time you were talking about the time frame, and that was in a
Yeah.
time in my life where I was totally absorbed in something totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never heard them then, and
Yeah.
I just never migrated toward them after that because other things would grab hold of my
Yeah.
Yeah.
attention,
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing about getting on the vocal part, I love the way they use the background singers.
Oh my God,
I
those
think that they
girls are
utilize
so
them so
good.
They
great. I think
are good.
'cause they're
Yeah.
not just saying what he says. I like how they
They're,
use them to like answer him and things
yes,
like that.
it's a yeah
It's just not your typical like
call and
copy what he.
response.
Yeah.
Here's what I vision in that. I wrote that down too in my notes. Is the background. They always have great background
Mhm.
singers, and that call and response. It's church, it's black
Yep.
church,
Yep.
or it's the black juke joints.
Yep. Yep.
Where you got the blues guy up there and he's singing
Yep.
and the crowd's answering.
Mhm.
It's that's what they're pulling from. And Chris Robinson, I've
Well,
seen
in church, they do that part with the organ.
right,
Yep.
The preacher will say something, and the organ. They these do it with the vocals.
right.
Yeah.
So, Chris Robinson's the singer, right? And I've seen a number of interviews with him, and that's where he says we pulled a lot from black gospel.
Yep.
And you especially hear it in these first couple of albums.
hmm
So let me ask you, as a singer, Bob,
hmm
okay, the fact that, we've talked before about as a guitar player to play clean, it's scary because it shows your imperfections, right? Why do you think they're not doing anything to his vocal on this, other than the
I
fact that I don't think they need it?
I think it's flat out on purpose
Yeah.
because probably well, I mean, let's face it, reverb is a crutch
Yes.
to a degree.
Yeah.
Sometimes it enhances a vocal. Sometimes it's because the vocal's not so hot.
Yeah.
So you
And they use it to give body when they don't have the body.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, he's belting that.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's just got what it takes to sing raw.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and two, we talk a lot, you know, however many episodes we got now, 8 or so episodes, we talk a lot about playing in the pocket. Okay. There's so many pocket songs on here, but here's what I want to make it a point of is how often do we talk about the singer singing in the pocket?
Yep.
Especially on, you know, Bad Luck Blue Eyes. Okay.
That's the one that plays over. I mean, I've listened to the album a couple times now
Yeah.
because we're going to do this,
Yeah.
but that's the one that just completely resonates
Yeah.
in my brain. Just keeps coming back.
That's
Yeah.
I love the mood of that song. I mean, that's like a guitar player's dream
Yeah.
song right there.
But listen, we're talking Bad Luck Blue Eyes, right? So right out the gate, being beat with a little weed, right?
Yeah.
So you slow them, but I mean, they're all playing, but the way he sings, he's singing right in that pocket all the time. And to me, last night, my wife Heather, this is not a band she would listen to. So we're just driving around. It's a pretty night, so we're out driving, and I said, here's the album we're reviewing. I said, I want you to listen to 2 songs, and I played her, "Thorn in My Pride" and "Bad Luck Blue Eyes." Now, you've not heard her sing. Okay, she's an amazing singer, and I'm not saying that just because she's my wife. She is an amazing
Mhm.
singer. So I asked her at the end of the songs, I was like, do you like his voice? Now, she always tells me no. She's like, that's a good singer.
Nice.
And I said, what do you think about all these little, because she
Yeah.
doesn't do all, those types of, she can, but she doesn't do a lot of that stuff. And I was like, what do you think about all those little inflections that he's using? She goes, it works.
I know. I love the way. I mean, and it sounds so off the cuff too. The way it's just,
And there are
you can tell
places
they're
that
in it.
he purposely doesn't do
Yeah.
that
That's right.
Yeah.
because
Yes.
everybody else in the
It's
world
doing
would
so.
have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. It impressed me.
Yeah.
The sound of his voice, the sound of the backup vocals,
Yeah.
the entire band. Man, I mean, there's song after song
Yeah.
where they
Bad
do
Luck to me
something.
is like the best headphone song.
Oh, yeah, because it's layered.
Yep.
If
Yep.
if you've got it in your ear, you go, oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that was good.
Well, we have a greenhouse out there,
Yeah.
and Marilyn goes out there pretty much, or what? Yeah,
You grow
yeah.
tomatoes.
Actually, yes. Hopefully, some cabbage. a little lettuce. But we we were in there the other night, and we also use it to warm up when on a cold day. We got lawn chairs in the greenhouse.
Nice, you're getting a
So
suntan in
the
there.
other night we were in there, and I said, I'm going to put on Alan's album and take a listen to it. So I put it on, and she said, "Who is that?" And I said, I had it mixed up with the album title,
Right? Yeah.
So I started rattling out the Southern something, or other, and finally I said, "No, it's the Black Crows."
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, they did such and such,"
Yeah.
and next thing you know, she's humming along with the
Nice.
songs.
Perfect.
So we sat in there and listened to the whole album in the greenhouse.
That's
So
awesome.
that was pretty cool.
Now, Marilyn's a great singer too. I'd be
Yeah.
curious to know what she thinks of Chris's voice.
Oh, she likes the whole thing.
Yeah.
She liked the whole album,
Good.
except for the last song, of course.
Yeah.
And that's a,
Only time will tell.
See,
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
to me, I think that after they just rock your socks off, to me that was like, all right,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's simmer down for a minute. We're
Everybody-
gonna walk you out as they're
Yeah.
walking out the door.
Right.
I thought that was a great
Well,
ending to that.
I've got to tell you that I listen I listen a lot to the lyrics and the meanings behind the lyrics, more so now than I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
I used to not listen to lyrics
Yeah.
hardly at all.
I was like,
But,
play the guitar.
Yeah.
please.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing. If I just listened to the sound, we talked about this, and
Yeah.
I think we're probably not alone. I think there are a lot of people that hear a song and they don't pay any attention. They don't give a rip
Yeah.
what is being said in the
Yeah.
song. But
And then I
they're-
think also too, especially with, I don't want to say kids, but kids.
Kids.
I think part of the issue with, I'm gonna probably get beaten up. Please comment on this and
Yes.
beat me up.
beat 'em up.
I think part of the reason country music is so bad is because they don't care about the music, and all they do is everybody knows the lyrics, and they're just party lyrics that
Yeah.
everybody knows and everybody can relate to, but the music is terrible.
Well,
So I think there's a
okay,
dichotomy.
okay.
there.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story in the next episode. So come back. No, but that last song, as far as the sound of it,
Yeah.
the feel of it,
Yeah.
it was all good.
Yeah.
It was all good. I didn't like the
Lyrics. Yeah. I knew because I know the rootsy stuff you like, and that's a rootsy
Yeah.
outgoing song.
It's his whole album.
Yeah.
If I have to defend the lyrics, I can't do it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, as it's probably a good thing. Most of them are over my head anyway. I don't get it.
So all right.
It's okay.
So,
But the sound of it is
Yeah.
incredible.
so we always talk about the musical time machine.
Mhm.
Okay. So this album for me, um, I mean, when it came out in '92, I was in Birmingham, Alabama. There's a couple of stories I'm gonna relate to this. All right. So uh, we've talked about how I was in the '90s. I was stand-up comedian, but
Mhm.
for a while I had a day job, right? And that day job was catching shoplifters for a large company. Okay. And so I moved to Birmingham, Alabama when this album was released. I was down there, and this was constant background album for me. So it was literally the music of Birmingham, Alabama for me. So they paired me up with this guy. They said, we've hired this guy. We want you to train, and we want you to train him to catch shoplifters with you. And this is back. It was like the Wild West back in the day. Okay, we would chase people. I mean, it was nuts. So I think
Now you just watch them walk out and be like,
Exactly.
"See you later."
Exactly.
I mean, I did that for many, many years, and it was fun. And I was a young man and stupid and doing some stuff I shouldn't have done, chasing some of these people. But they introduced me to this guy, and his name's Bobby Wilhite. Bobby, if you ever listen to the show, I'm telling you, brother, it was fun working with you, but you nearly got us killed, and that's the story I'm going to tell. Bobby says Bobby looked like Chuck Norris from the Octagon, dude.
Oh.
He looked like Chuck Norris. I was like, "Hi, man, I'm Alan." He goes, "I'm Bobby Wilhite," and he goes, "Are you in the martial arts?" I went, "No." He goes, "I am." So he's always talking dude, I was like, I'm working with Chuck Norris, right? So I'm like, all right. He says, look, he goes, I'll teach you martial arts. You teach me how to catch
Did he make
shoplifters.
you wax his car and do
No,
all
no, so it's like we would we'd be at work, we'd be on lunch or whatever, or we'd go out to eat at night, and he'd go, all right, he goes, this is a whatever. I'm like, all right, man, I'm thinking I'm learning some stuff, right? So he's learning how to spot people and all this. So we're in Center Point, Alabama, and these two massive guys walk in, and they go over and they just start putting $200 cologne all around them, and I'm like, those are the biggest guys I've ever seen in my life, right? That was
You're
stupid.
like, it's only cologne,
Yeah.
just let it go.
Right. That's the day I said I was bold, right? Now I look back and go, I was an idiot, right? So we're peeking around the corner and we're seeing it go down. I look at Bobby and Bobby's looking at me and he goes, I'm like, all right, man, I got Chuck Norris here, right? So these dudes go out. So imagine this: we get to the vestibule. We have to wait to get onto the
Oh
sidewalk.
yeah, yeah.
They step on the sidewalk. I went, excuse me, I'm with security. Dude, it was on. We were punching, we were screaming, we were yelling. We fought back through the vestibule, up against the service desk, right back out into the
So like
parking
Tom
lot.
and Jerry, where there's dust kicking up.
It was insane. People were screaming. People were going, call the police, right? So we get out onto the sidewalk. I, my eyes swollen shut. Man, I'm telling you, I'm bruised. So I'd get on the back of this one guy and I just wrap my legs around him and we face plant, right? Face plant. He knocks himself out, right? I roll over. The other guy's gone. Bobby's standing inside the vestibule. I look over and went, what the hell, Bobby? I thought you knew Kung Fu. He goes, I lied.
Oh my!
He didn't even attempt to help me take this dude down, right? But on the way to the emergency room, I was playing that album.
There you go. And back to where you were
Yeah,
when you listened to a particular album, that is all ingrained in
yep,
what you think of it.
yep.
Yeah,
Um, the fact that I've only listened to it twice, you lived it for a long period of time.
yeah,
That
really
makes a
died
difference.
to it.
That makes a difference.
So, and on that, a little while later, this particular album became important to me because um, they paired us up with a partner, and they paired me up with this girl named Beth. Now, Beth is probably the world's biggest Black Crowes fan. And at the time, she was the first girl I'd ever met that liked real good music. So they always liked, pop or
Bon
country.
Jovi.
Right. This chick, I meet her.
See,
You
was
don't
he
want
grown
to.
up at that point?
So,
Yeah.
so at the time, her name was Beth Anderson. She's married since. I don't remember her name now. We reach out to each other every now and then. And I'm going to send her this video,
Mhm.
right? Because she's going to remember some of this stuff. But we would catch these shoplifters and we'd have to go to court, right? Well, this one particular town that we would catch shoplifters in, court was in the afternoon, in the evenings. So whether it was her or me driving, the Black Crows was on. And more
Nice.
times than not, it was this album. And she would always do this thing when she'd get to a lyric that she'd go, she would just point
That's my jam. That's my jam.
and there were times there's a point to this story. The story is you said, sometimes the lyrics didn't make sense or
Yeah.
whatever. And I would point that out. And I go, well, what do you think he's saying right there? She goes, it's poetry to music, Alan. It's just poetry to music, right?
That's the way I need to start looking
Yep.
at these.
It
You
is.
know,
My guitar teacher, or my bass teacher, I took a couple lessons and gave up on the lesson
We
part.
know.
let
Yeah,
me know if
I
I
I
can
mean,
tell.
I'm sure it shows in my playing, but
That's
that's
why
what
he's
he's,
not been invited to the band.
and that's what he said. And that's what he said too. He said, a lot of lyrics make no sense because all they do is try to fit the music.
Yeah, yeah.
So we
Well,
always had
this
that
is
kind of attitude about it.
but this is nowhere near as bad as the Stone Temple Pilots,
Yeah, yeah,
where it was pure nonsensical. On this, you can go, okay,
Yeah,
maybe he's
I can
saying
agree with
something.
that.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, where were you when this album hit?
I don't know if I can say it out loud. Um,
Prison.
I was probably with my best friend who would turn me on to a lot of this type of music because I grew up in the metal arena, and then he turned me on to kind of Blues Traveler and all this stuff. And I'm sure we were probably smoking pot in his room, and he's
Yeah,
like, "Hey, let's check out this new Black Rose album."
yeah,
And I just sat there and enjoyed the hell out of it,
yeah.
and just kept listening to it. And then we'd see him. once you see a band in concert too, it changes your whole attitude about the band.
Yes.
And then you go back and kind of listen to the record or
Yeah.
CD, I guess in this case.
And Beth she used to, for a while, she would send me pictures. Here I am with the Black Crows because she'd always go
Nice.
get the backstage thing. And then it became like I would send her something. I'd go, hey, I heard that Blackberry Smoke got their name from Chris Robinson in a conversation. She
Oh,
goes,
cool.
I'll ask them
Huh.
because she's always got that connection. So
Yep.
I'm 6 degrees with Kevin Bacon. I'm 2 degrees. You're Beth
Yeah,
of this.
practically related.
I mean, might as well. I think we're going to go on tour with
They call him Cousin Chris and
yeah,
Cousin
cousin
Rich.
Chris and cousin Rich. Yeah. Now, Bob, to tell you a little bit about the band, though, that you may not, I know you usually dig into this, but the two
I
brothers,
didn't this time.
the singer is Chris, the guitar player is Rich, always fighting. They've broken up so many
Like
times.
hundreds of times.
Yeah,
They're even at the point up until this maybe still they have a new album that they just put out, but maybe 5 or 6 years before that, they're both in separate bands but doing Black Crow
yeah,
songs. And I actually saw
yeah,
Chris Robinson downtown Chattanooga. He called it "As the Crow Flies,"
yeah.
and it was
And
him and Audley Freed was the
yes,
guitar
yes,
player,
yes.
and they played Black. It's like seeing the Black Crows without his
So
brother in
is
there.
is the brother the one that does the lead breaks
Oh,
in these
yeah,
Yep,
songs?
yeah.
That's my kind. I told my wife this.
Tasteful.
yep.
I
Yeah.
said
They do a
that
lot. He
is
does a lot of
my
open
kind of
tunings
lead.
too.
That's what I love.
Yep,
Yeah, tasteful. Now they also had a number of guitar players, second guitar
yep,
players over the years. Most recent was Mark Ford, I believe.
yep.
Yeah, and great guitar players in
He's
their own
great. I
right.
saw
Yeah,
him on a solo thing. He's got a nice little
yeah,
voice
yeah,
too. He's a pretty
yeah.
talented dude.
But Rich has always been that in the pocket.
Yep,
Don't be flashing.
yep,
I'm gonna say something here.
yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Wow.
but part of the story is it got so contentious at one point that they were supposed to have a, Beth is probably when she hears this, she's going to think he got it wrong, but I'm close enough. I'm an ish on this story, right? But they were supposed to have this big, this they had a gig, and they were fighting so hard they broke up. Well, the rest of the band's like, peace out, we're gone, right? But they were contractually obligated, so they go out and they're mad at each other, they're hating each other. Acoustic. Rich is playing acoustic. Chris plays, Chris sings, and it became
Greatest show
massive.
ever.
It was massive for them, right? Because it was just such a simple thing.
I mean, some bands need that, the
Yeah,
Stones. I don't think
yeah.
Mick and what's his name? Man, it just totally lost it. Mick
Uh,
and
Keith,
Keith. Yes, I don't think they particularly cared for each other.
yeah. It's that contention
Yep,
sometimes that
yep. The
breeds
Beatles. I
art.
mean, they're always infighting and all that too.
So, I would be remiss if I didn't tell one more Beth story.
Okay, tell
Okay,
Beth.
so so we were on our way to court one afternoon, and we were starving, right? So this is at Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and she says, "Hey, what if we go through, what if we go through the crystals, right?" Now we had a great relationship with the detectives and the cops in that town. They loved us, right? And we'd often hang out with them in court, off to the side and whatever and whatever. So we go into we're in the drive through of the crystals, and it had a sharp turn in this particular crystals, right? And we were always laughing and goofing off. And she goes, she goes, stick your hand through here. So she handcuffs my hand through the steering wheel, and she handcuffs it, just being silly, right, to the door of my truck. Well, I couldn't go anywhere. And she goes, just unlock it. I went, the key, I don't have my key to the cuffs. She didn't have her key to the cuffs.
Oh no.
So we got people piling up behind us, blowing their horn and stuff. And we've literally just given our, taken our order. We had to call the cops. The cops came down and had to unhook me. And when they walked up, they were like, "Why are you handcuffed to the steering wheel of your truck?" And I was like, "It's Beth's problem." But anyway, that's
Sounds like a lot of fun.
we had a lot of fun and a lot of music, but it was almost always, not always, but almost always the Black.
Nice.
So all right, so that's all my Black Crowes stories.
Well, I can tell you that there are a lot of places where even if I didn't like the lyrics, I love the music.
Yes.
So, and that's the theme
What
behind
was
the
your
whole thing.
favorite song out of it?
Oh man, let me get my glasses on. I'll tell you. I think Alan knows that I'm a sucker for a Hammond B3.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what makes me warm and fuzzy inside. And Thorn in My
So you
Pride
must hate Greg
starts
Allman,
off,
don't you?
huh?
You hate Greg Allman,
Oh
then, don't
man,
you?
God. But Thorn in My Pride starts off
With just that
with a
beginning,
B3,
yeah.
and that's the one that I thought had influences of Marshall Tucker Band and Janis Joplin, and that's kind of all I put for that song because I
Nice.
if I could isolate, well, not even isolate the music. I mean, um, in most of these, I felt like like I said, the band was perfect, but um, add the vocals to
Yep,
that, and
yep,
it was that much better.
yep.
Just take out the meaning of the lyrics, whatever they mean. I don't know. Most of them I didn't know. So it's not something I would sing along with,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah. But it's still so freaking good. You're gonna
it
have it
is,
on in the
yep,
background. Yeah.
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 I don't know if it was my favorite, but I think one sleeper for me was Black Moon Creeping. I love
Yes.
that tune. It's a
When it
great
starts
tune.
out, he's clearly got a fuzz on it.
Yeah, oh
At
yeah.
one point, I'm like,
Yep.
is that a fuzz and a wall?
Yep.
What's he doing
Yep.
there?
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
song.
So good. So for me, it would be it would be Bad Luck Blue Eyes. It's hard for me to pick. They're
Yeah.
all so
Yeah.
good, but to me, because as a guitar player,
Yep.
there's so many good moments in that. And then there's the Hammond, and then his singing is so in the pocket. And on that song too, if you think about it, there were times I'm like, it's too loose. It's too loose.
Yep.
But no, it was
Yep.
tight. It just
Yeah.
had that loose vibe. It sneaks up on
Yeah.
you.
And I'll
But
go
that
back on the background singers too on that.
Oh,
They enhance that song
yes.
so much. They just
that was
do
the
such
one
a
about the
great job.
breakup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
That was one of mine.
yeah. And I'm like you, whatever the song, put a Hammond B3 on it. My brother goes B3 on everything, but he listens to Iron Maiden,
Yep.
and
That'd
that's
be
all he plays.
that'd be interesting with a B3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He won't play anything bluesy at all. But his
But if
quote
he
is
listens to it, it's got to have a B3 on. Number of the Beast with B3
yeah.
on.
I'll tell you one I was bored with. No Speak, No Slave.
Well, I love that
Yeah,
tune.
I like it.
I do too.
You know, I wasn't this to me it's every song. Every song's a
Yeah,
10.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
There isn't one I really don't like.
But I think I could see why you would say that.
Yeah,
And again, it's a lot about what was going on in your life at the
yeah,
time you
yeah,
were attracted to a certain
Yeah.
band or
yeah.
album or song. It's all part
One
of it.
thing I do get pissed off about Chris Robinson is he said Blues Traveler's a novelty band.
Yeah, Blues Travelers his Hey, did you see that we had a fan ask us to do 4?
Done.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if you saw it because I
No.
think it needs to be your
All
album.
right, I'll do
And
it.
it's my
I
son.
was gonna do.
Oh, what?
Yes.
I
Well,
was either gonna do their first one or that one.
yeah,
Well, there you
All
go.
right,
yeah.
done.
That's a great band too.
I haven't heard it.
Oh, it's a
All right.
great
He
band.
hasn't shared that with me.
All
But
right.
I would agree with you. Come on, Chris. I love you,
I
man.
mean,
Don't
to
think
me,
something like that.
like Jackal, the chainsaw they use, that's a
That's
novelty
novelty.
thing.
Yeah,
But him play the way he plays that is just an added instrument. It's just
yeah,
that his harmonica is just an
yeah,
addition. I mean, we're kind of getting off topic,
yeah.
but
No,
I
I
just
got
have to
you.
battle my boys.
Plus, I love his voice.
Oh
John
yeah,
Palmer's
great.
voice,
Yep, yep,
great voice,
yep,
man. Yeah, I'm
yep.
down. All right,
But other
so
than that, I have no issue with them.
right. So well, and I'll tell you
Upcoming.
this: they got kicked off of a couple of tours too because they're so
They're a
opinionated.
little prima donna, I think,
Yeah,
too.
they
You know, a
can be.
little.
And this was early on in their career.
Yeah,
You know,
yep.
they were like, "We
Oh
don't give
yeah,
a
yep.
flip." We're just gonna,
Good musicians are strange.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they all got it, especially the lead singer.
yeah,
They have lead singer disease.
yeah. All right, so that gets us, I guess, to our questions. So those of you who've been listening along, we try to ask 3 questions at the end of our discussion.
Well,
Um,
Andrew just asked part of mine,
okay,
but
so
I'm sorry.
that's all right. All right. So my question would be, you've already answered it. Are there any that you don't like on
um,
this album?
no, I'm with him on that. To me, they're all perfect.
yeah,
Not necessarily perfect, but the album is just to me is flawless.
yeah,
To
I
be
think
honest
it's
with you.
a complete piece of
Yeah,
art.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
So now I'll tell you this: there were albums that they would come out with, and I would text Beth and I'd go, I hate it. And she'd go, "You're an idiot." And I would come back and I'd listen to it and
Yep.
go, "Oh my God, what an amazing
Yep.
album."
I'll tell you, for me, besides this, Lions and By Your Side are probably my two other favorite
Yeah.
albums they do.
Look, one of them in particular was Warpaint. I hated Warpaint.
I didn't like that
Hated it.
either until I listened to it a few
That's
times.
right. Because you've got Daughters of the
Yep,
Revolution,
yep.
right? I mean, that right out of the gate, and you've got Within the Deep. I think
I
that was
love
one of
that too.
oh,
Yep,
what a
yep,
great. There's so many good
yep,
songs on there.
yep.
So
I'm
we'll
gonna
get to
go get
those
something to eat.
eventually. So what's your question tonight?
Mine's always the same, in honor of my dad, an educator. Do you think this should be taught in schools?
I would say, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would agree. To me, like I said, it's just at this point, to me, it's a classic album.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, people probably think that's a hyperbole, but to me, it's the truth. I mean, this is when I think of rock and roll, this is an album I
Yeah.
choose all the time.
Well, out of a total no.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
I
the
love
point
this your
system.
system. Okay.
There's a lot of songs on this, so what do they get?
Yeah,
Fifteen
I've got
hundred points on
two
this?
pages. Well, no, out of a total of 3 points that they could get, they get a 2.9 from me.
No, Steely Dan got like 15,000 points.
1,162. How is it? Your scale is a slight scale. Stick with something, Yankee.
Hey,
Hey, I take offense to that.
So my question tonight would be,
yeah,
all right, um, you want to take what do you call those things that you put stuff in, you bury it?
basket.
A time capsule.
Capsule. Sorry, I had a senior moment
I
there.
mean, a casket was a correct answer.
That's true. You were.
I said basket.
Oh, I
Oh, yeah.
So, would you put this in a time capsule so that people 10,000 years in the future would dig it up and go, "Oh, what is this?"
Oh, I think it would be a great addition to a
Yeah,
time capsule.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
yeah, yeah. I think so too. Especially if you could take Bob and understand the state of music when that first album especially came out. There was nothing
Yeah.
on the scene like it.
And this might be a stretch, but not to me, I guess, obviously, because I thought of it. But to me, this is like when this came out with the style of music that was out there, to me, is like when Black Sabbath came out in the 60s, when all you heard was love, 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 and all this. And then Black Sabbath comes out with Death and Iron Maiden
Yeah,
or Iron Man and
yeah, yeah.
all these dark lyrics and a totally different band that was out during the summer of love, and it's like
Right.
the total antithesis of what's going on.
That's right. And I think that, you're right. So it was so different that people were
Yeah,
either going to love it or hate it.
exactly. Yep.
But what I think about the Crows is when they hit, I think there was a need in the collective
Yeah.
consciousness for real music.
I think it's the purity of it too.
I think
It's
so
very
too.
just like I said, to me it's just rock and roll simplicity, I like
Yeah.
to call it. It's just
It
it
wasn't
is
fake.
what it is. Yep.
When you hear
Yep.
it, you go, that's
Yep.
real.
Yep.
That's real. That's not fake stuff that they're doing just to make money. That's something they feel.
Yep. Definitely.
All right. So, final question to you, Bob. And our friendship of 15 years depends on this
Uh-oh.
answer.
Okay, it's really been a good.
Good run.
Could you say, with just this one album, are you a fan?
I I would say yes.
I think he needs to listen to Shake Your Money Maker.
That'd be a good one.
It's not got these types of lyrics that you
Yeah.
sometimes are put off a bit by. It's more of a
That's
straightforward.
Yeah.
that's really the whole thing.
Yeah.
Everything else,
Is
if I was going to put them on a different scale and say, they could get 300 points, they wouldn't lose many,
Yeah,
but what they would lose would be because of the
Yeah.
lyrics,
gotcha.
the meaning behind the lyrics, the sound of the lyric
I got you. Yep.
is a different
Yeah,
meaning
that's right.
because it fits with the music.
Yep.
I think that he should go down in history as one of the great rock singers.
I absolutely think that. And still, even with the
Yeah.
new stuff,
Yeah, it
his
sounded
voice is
good.
very solid.
Because he's
so,
our age now, where a
Yep.
lot of dudes, their
Yep.
voice starts to. No, he's still hammering it out, dude.
Yeah, I went down with that.
Yeah. All right, so I think that takes us to the end. So you like to take us out?
All right. As usual, like, subscribe,
5
please
stars.
comment, 5 stars. Listen to our podcast. Tell your friends. Stay uncool.
Beth,
Like what you like.
send it to everybody you know, Beth.
Stay uncool, people. Like what you like. Don't be afraid. Deuces.
See ya.